Oh my freaking god, I have some pretty huge caterpillars. And guess what these caterpillars are going to turn into? Wow, giant caterpillars. Guess what these caterpillars turn into when they've all grown up? Giant freaking moths. That's what the caterpillars turn into. Say hi to all their brothers and sisters. And I raised them myself. All the way from egg to caterpillar to moth. This is a giant silk moth that comes from Asia. Antheraea pernyi. My name is Bart Coppens. Welcome to my crazy life. I study butterflies and moths and I raise them in captivity. And I also have a YouTube channel about them. And today you're about to watch an episode of MothCycles, which is my online web series in which we raise them together and I show you how to breed them. And today we're going to talk about this wonderful and giant species, Antheraea pernyi, a silk moth from Asia. Let's start the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the beginning of a new YouTube life cycle video. Here we see very tiny black caterpillars. And they just happen to be eating already their favorite plant, which is oak tree. We are looking at the babies of the oak silk moth, Antheraea pernyi. This is a very classic species, very iconic. They are somewhat easy to farm, although the caterpillars can be prone to infections if you overcrowd them. But I don't think this species is going to be a challenge for me, not to brag. Here we see some of the eggs. Most of them have hatched. Like what you're looking at right now are eggs, big brown round eggs, and some empty eggshells as well, because caterpillars have come out of them. The babies are black, although interestingly they have this bright red head capsule. So if you want to learn how to raise saturnids and if you want to learn how to raise big species, try Antheraea pernyi. This is actually a very beautiful and interesting species. And I guess that the moths are often plain brown, which does not make them very exciting for that many people. But to me they are, for two reasons. First of all, they are very, very big. If you are very good at breeding this species, you can produce very big adults. I'm not joking, very, very big. So, there you go. Let's zoom in. As usual, the way I like to breed silk moths is I raise the babies in a nursery with paper towel and some leaf. And let me just add the baby caterpillars into here for now. There you go. And this is a very easy and safe way to raise silk moth babies in a plastic container. And usually when they reach instar number 3 or more, then I will transfer them to a bigger enclosure with more space. There you go. These are the babies of giant silk moths. And together we will raise them from tiny babies into huge moths on my special web series titled MothCycles. They are black, small and hairy. Their head capsules are brown-red in color. The first instars can be raised in plastic boxes, but also in a sleeve or a cage. They love oak leaves, but also willow, cherry, eucalyptus, birch, hawthorn and chestnut. It's incredible how something this small will eventually grow into a giant moth. And believe me, this species is actually very big. But we will get to that in time. Alright people, let's see how my babies are doing. Oh, my little children. Looking wonderful. Wow. Honestly, looking pretty good. This is still instar number 1, but they're getting ready to shed their skins pretty soon. I decided to move them out of their tiny enclosure into a big cage. Honestly, they're looking so good, I'm gonna give them an upgrade. Here is some, a can. It's an, oops, oh no. Of course. Gonna have to clean it up for a second. So here I have the caterpillars. I'm not going to move them off the paper, because many of them are in the process of shedding their skins. And when a caterpillar is about to shed its skin, you do not want to relocate it. Just let it sit here on the paper towel, which I will then... I guess I'll just place it here between the branches. Eventually the caterpillars will shed their skins themselves, and they will be able to find fresh leaves to eat for themselves. So that's how that goes. Do it carefully and respectfully. There's some respect for the animals. But yeah. Now Antheraea pernyi is not a very difficult species to breed. I would say the difficulty level is around a beginner level. But that doesn't mean you have to be careless. Caterpillars of this species can become very big. They need a lot of space and food. So that makes them different from other beginner species, I guess. So out of all the beginner species, this is the hardest beginner species. I know that sounds very stupid. The hardest beginner species. Like, what does that even mean? Means that out of every commonly available silkmoth that is a beginner level, this one is the one that can give newbies the most problems. Because the larvae can be very big and gluttonous, they need a lot of space and food for themselves. But yeah, despite that, if you are an experienced breeder, like me, I mean, is that an arrogant thing to say? I'm an experienced breeder. Probably just going to rub some people the wrong way, but I don't care. If you're a more experienced breeder like me, these are not going to be a challenge for you, however. Like, they're simply just not going to be a challenge. They're gonna be easy. Today I'm gonna check back on the pernyi to see how they are doing. Ta-da-da. I didn't have that many eggs though. And here is instar number 2! Instar number 2 lasted for a very short time. In fact, these caterpillars were already on the verge to shedding their skin to instar number 3 very rapidly. And here is instar number 3. Just 2 days later, most of them were already in star number 3. Can you see it? Now they are a little bit more colorful. As you can see, the caterpillars are now green. And on their sides they have quite beautiful blue warts, which are yellow on their backs. Long black hairs protrude from them. Fancy and beautiful, huh? These life stages are very short, and within a week they will have shed their skins to become even bigger. Let's check back a few days later. Let's see how they are doing, people. Oh, I see, the leaves have all been eaten and dried out. They need new food ASAP. Good thing is I arranged this. See this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a big cage and this is what I'm gonna put them in today. They'll have way more leaves than they had before. And let's be real, they are growing big, so it's more appropriate to have more food. Lot of food. Alright, so here are some of the pernyi larvae, not all of them, but a good handful of them. And I'm just gonna put them here on the, oops, tree of their dreams. Alright guys, it's dinner time. Let's start with you. Yes, you. It's one caterpillar and another caterpillar and then 2 more caterpillars. Let's hope they balance. Yep, let's continue. One tip, if you want to breed Antheraea pernyi, people, please do not underestimate their size. The caterpillars can grow to the size of Atlas moth caterpillars. Although this species has a smaller wingspan, the females have a huge body, a huge abdomen. And because of that they need a lot of weight and biomass. Now this is just Easter number 3, alright? So right now you cannot imagine how big they can get. But a good, healthy, strong bloodline of these caterpillars can grow ridiculously huge, like insanely big. It's not a joke, man. It's terrifying. One of the best host plants for this species is oak tree. I've heard they can eat other plants as well, like cherry. But I highly recommend oak if you have availability. Because they absolutely go crazy for that, as you can see. Really nice caterpillars, very hungry, very healthy, that's a good sign. This is just Easter number 3, so they do have a while to go. It's gonna take a while before they are finished. But so far it's looking good. Then again, don't count your chickens before they hatch, is what they say. Really nice larvae with subtle blue tubercles, if you look very closely. It's a pretty cool species. Great progress, but the growth has just begun. Let's check again a few days later. Wow, so this is Easter number 4. For a big species they certainly grow fast. This species is originally found in China and Taiwan. Humans have also introduced it in Europe, Japan and Korea. So in many parts of its range it was an accidental introduction by silk farmers. Funny how that goes. And maybe a gentle reminder of why it's a bad idea to release your exotic pets. They like moderate temperatures. Alright people, here's my happy family of oak silkmoths. It's looking pretty good so far. It's hard work because these guys they eat a lot. Breeding moths is actually very time consuming. and even kind of expensive. There you go. They have reasonable sizes, but there's still lots they have to grow.
These babies are instar number 4 and they're getting significantly bigger. However, soon they would shed their skin to instar number 5 if they kept feeding on the oak plant. Let's check back a few days later.
Alright people, they're in a new cage. Let's see what happens next. Oh yeah. Alright, humans of planet Earth, of which I am also one. I am not an alien. Trust me. Anyway, let's see how the caterpillars are doing. Run. Seem to be growing pretty well on this little oak tree here. Dang, I don't know if you can see them, because it's a whole bunch of leaves. Maybe I should go a little closer. Can you see it? Oh, that's a big fat green caterpillar, isn't it? Just look at its size. Gee, that's huge. That's huge. Caterpillar update, ladies and gentlemen. Caterpillar update. What? Crazy, huh? Look how big. Yeah. I know I don't have anything intellectual to say right now except for some caveman like grunting, but I'm guessing that you enjoy the grunting too. Maybe you think it's even very sexy. But no, honestly, these guys are just getting pretty big, which is something I wanted to show off. And this is pretty cool, man. Caterpillars of this moth, like I said, can get insanely big in some cases. Well, let's be real, the moths themselves are also pretty huge. Check them out. Big, fat and green Silkmoths. Love it. So, they're looking pretty healthy in my opinion. I think Bart Coppens has done a good job. It is hard work feeding them though, like this whole piece of oak tree is completely stripped from all the leaves. Thankfully here I already have some new leaves prepared, and this is going to last them maybe two days at most. Wow, look at that. In my opinion, Antheraea pernyi have really cool caterpillars. They are this very bright lime/neon green. It's very cool. They have these brown head capsules and these tiny blue dots. So as I said before, these caterpillars can grow to incredible sizes if you take care of them well. The final instar of these caterpillars can be just as big as the caterpillars of the Atlas moth in some cases. I know that sounds strange, but it's absolutely true. Look at that. One thing I also like about these species is their heads. The head capsule of this caterpillar, they have these funny speckles on them. It's almost like they have freckles in their face. See, can you guys see it? And I suppose their stomach also has this, it has like this brown line here that runs through the middle. Really cool caterpillars, and so far they're growing very well, so I'm pleased with the result. Personally I hope that I will be successful with these. Wow! Look at that happy little family of caterpillars. This is moth farming done the right way, ladies and gentlemen. Look at those big healthy caterpillars. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm raising more of them too. While this is a newbie species that's really easy to raise for beginners, it's still possible to make mistakes and fail. For example, too many caterpillars in a small cage can get sick. They do prefer a lot of space. Too high humidity can also make them sick, so make sure they are not in wet conditions and well ventilated. Let's check back later.
Let's check back a few days later.
Oh yes, this is instar number 5. Now they're starting to be impressive, aren't they? As they eat more food, they're going to grow even bigger. Remember when I mentioned silk farmers, by the way? There's something you should know. This moth species is actually a commercial species of silk moth. Yes, that's right. These moths are raised in Asia for the production of commercial grade silk. Hence their common name, Chinese oak silk moth. Now this species is beginner friendly, although breeding them is a lot of work and because they eat insane amounts of food. And yes, as the name implies, oak leaf is their favorite food.
Every few days now I find myself giving them new food. There's still no cocoons. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is insanity. Time to give them new food again. Ladies and gentlemen, and now we have good news, for a lot of the caterpillars have started spinning cocoons. It was about time. Let me show you what it looks like. I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? If you here look at the leaves, you'll see this. It's hard to miss. I mean, in some species the cocoons are hard to miss. They're disguised very well between the leaf. But the case of Antheraea pernyi, they're really in your face. They're like almost chicken egg shaped, big cocoons. Let's take this one off. Oh, there you go. Very nice, beautiful and healthy cocoon. The cocoons of this moth are very big because this is actually a very big species as well. Like, a lot of people who breed this species are surprised at how big they are in real life. You can't get that from pictures, but I'll show you on YouTube. When these turn into moths, you'll be impressed. Like, this is a very large Saturnid. This one decided to make a very crazy silk pad around him. I don't know why. It's very freaky. I've never seen this in a cocoon before. Like, here's the cocoon, but this whole thing that it made around it, it's really weird. I think somebody has made a silk cloth for me as a gift. A silk napkin. Wow, it feels soft. It's so weird. I don't understand why it did this, but I think to get some grip. Anyway, one thing is clear. Yeah, cocoon here is ready. You even see some caterpillar inside. And another cocoon, this one as well, is quite big. Impressive material. I'm happy. This seems to be a healthy pernyi bloodline. If they're not healthy, you cannot grow them this big. So well, actually this is not extraordinarily big. This is just their normal size. But sometimes after inbreeding, the animals become smaller than they are supposed to be. So now this is looking like a healthy sized bloodline. Rest of the caterpillars is still feeding, I suppose. So let's give them a break. I think in the coming next week they will as well reach the final size and start spinning. More cocoons! Wow, that's a nice one. Let's use scissors to take it off. More cocoons! This is looking great. The more the merrier. So now we have the first official cocoons of Antheraea pernyi. What do we do with these cocoons? Well, most of the time these moths have about 2 generations a year. So if you're lucky, the cocoons can hatch in about 6 weeks' time on room temperature. However, there's also a chance that they will decide to hibernate. If after about 2 months or 3 months your moths are not hatching on room temperature,
it could be a sign that they want to hibernate. In this case, I can recommend putting them cold, around 5 degrees Celsius, maybe between 5 and 10 degrees Celsius, for let's say at least 4 months time. This will be sufficient to break their diapause and let them hibernate. After experiencing a cold temperature, you can warm them up again and they will wake up from hibernation. Let's wait until we have our moths.
Let's check back a few days later.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm in a good mood. Why? I just checked the cage of my cocoons and our first Antheraea pernyi has come out. An exciting moment. It's always nice, the moment in the video where I can present you the moth. Let me show you. Wow! Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Antheraea pernyi. If there's one thing about this species that isn't appreciated enough, then it's their sheer size. Look at it. It's not the biggest moth that I've ever raised, but it's certainly a large species. And what's fun about it is that there's a lot of beginner species in this hobby. I consider this a beginner species too. But out of all the beginner species, this is definitely the biggest one that you can raise as a beginner. I think really huge moths like the Atlas moth are not really suitable for a total beginner. But this is a very beginner friendly species and it's easy to breed and nice and big. And I like that. I am a simple man, I like big moths. If my monkey brain see big moth, me like big thing. No, but seriously though. Typically this species is brown. There's also a very rare chocolate brown form. But that one has been out of the hobby for many years, I wonder why. But typically this is what they look like, this is their typical form. They kind of have like this olive grayish, their color is between, it's hard to describe, it's between brown and olive green somehow. It's an interesting color. I think these moths are beautiful. They're not the most brightly colored moths in the world, but they're very, I don't know, they have really cool eye spots and stuff. For example, do you see like these false eyes in their wing? Look, they're transparent. If you look closely, you can see my finger. See that? Behind it. That's pretty cool, huh? It's overall a really cool moth. And our first specimen seems to be a male. So we're gonna wait for the female to come out. But wow! This is a beauty, isn't it? Look at that, the underside is really cool too. It's a really cool pattern on it. Almost reminds me of Coppens. So beautiful, huh? Beginner species, but hey, you know, I don't really care, I love it. I love Antheraea pernyi, it's a really cool one. So this is the male of the Chinese oak silkmoth, or Antheraea pernyi. It's easy to tell that he is a male because of the bigger and massive antennae and the falcate wings. An interesting fact is that females are even bigger than the males in this species, so we could expect to see moths that are even bigger soon. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Antheraea pernyi. Alright people, so we have good news, because one of our last caterpillars has finally made its cocoon. And with that, all the caterpillars I kind of filmed have cocooned. Well, that's not exactly true. You see, here's some information you may be able to appreciate, but behind the scenes I've been raising more of them as well. See that? Here's already the next batch coming up. But this is another bloodline from the one I filmed in this video. See here in the oak tree, there's even more caterpillars. Yeah. So I have a lot more work to do. I'm not sure if I'm going to show you that. Maybe a little bit, because we've already filmed the development of this caterpillar from egg to cocoon. So to me it makes no sense to show it to you 2 times in one video. But just keep in mind that I'm rearing more of them behind the scenes than I'm vlogging in this video. It's, in some cases that's the case. I like to film one group of caterpillars and not all my individuals of one species, because it's easier to watch that way. So yeah, all these caterpillars are going to turn into moths as well. But these are not for YouTube. These are for YouTube. So yeah, let's wait until we see some moths. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the poor quality of the lighting. It's in the middle of summer, but it's been raining outdoors for weeks and weeks. Yeah, that's my country, the Netherlands. We have a lot of rainfall in the Netherlands, even in summer. So I cannot go outdoors without ruining my $1,000 camera. But I was happy today to see that new moths have come out today. Ta-da! So right now we are up to 3 individuals. And you can see that the one in the middle looks kind of different, because we have 1 male, 1 female, 1 male. So if you want to see the difference between male and female, you can see it now, but I will show you a better illustration later, so you can see the difference even easier. I am very happy. As you can see, the moths are big and healthy, and they're absolutely beautiful. Like, look at the sheer size of this species. It's incredible. Wow. So the next thing that we want to do, my hair looks really great, yeah. The next thing that we want to do is, we want to reproduce this species, right? We want to make sure that the males pair with the females and produce the next generation. And for that we have to recreate the conditions in which they like to be sexual. Thankfully, I'm very experienced with that, of course. Me being the sexy moth king himself. Not to mention all the cute girls who are watching my channel, sending me like private messages on Instagram. Oh my god, Bart Coppens, I want to hang out with you. Oh no, sorry for that, let's get serious. Anyway, pairing this species is really quite easy. That's why a lot of people call it a beginner species. I kind of agree, the species is really kind of easy to breed. But nonetheless they are not less exciting because they're easy. The moths are really big and beautiful. What you have to do is you have to take the cage and place it basically in a dark place with no light. And they really like it if there's a little bit of airflow as well. And like 90% of the time it's gonna result in a pairing. So, the males are very sensitive to the presence of females. Whoop, one is just flying away. And here we see the beautiful female. Wow! Oh great. What are you doing? Okay, I'll catch that one later. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing I hate more than filming indoors. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to lighting and the quality of the images sometimes. And indoor the lighting, the colors just looks like garbage. It's all drab, it's all brown, the background is brown, but we also don't have natural light. We only have some indoor lighting, which I can maybe adjust a little bit, but yeah, it's it bothers me if I have to film inside. I prefer to do it outdoors, but it's raining. It's been raining for days. Actually, my country is super rainy sometimes. And this summer has not been really not a great summer in my opinion. It's depressing. I can't really film outdoors in the rain because it's a $1,000 camera. If I ruin it, it's the end of my channel. I cannot afford a new one. Then I will have to go back to the old image quality. Anyway, last night I was having a look in the cage. I don't know if you can see it, but these two are pairing. These two moths are pairing. Let me see if I can take them out without disturbing them. Very careful I have to be. Ah yes, there you go. This is what I found last night. The moths are attached to each other, can you see it? Their abdomens are linked together, and it's typically what a pairing looks like. Means the male is copulating with the female. Males have to hook-like appendages called claspers, and he uses them to hang on to the female when they are pairing. I think I can actually take the female and the male will just, see that? The male will just freely dangle below the female. He can hold on to her using his genitals. That's what moths can do. So this means that the female is now fertilized. She has a nice underside, can you see the pattern? The female is now fertilized and every tiny little egg she lays is going to be fertile for the next generation of moths. That's great, isn't it? I think it is. Because it means our breeding project is successful. Last but not least, last night I saw something else, let me show you. We also have something else. We have another new male and female that came out last night. Can you see it? So we have one mating couple, but also a potential second pairing tonight. That's excellent, isn't it? The breeding is going very well of this beautiful big species. Wow. Great. Let's check back a few days later. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Slowly every day, more and more moths keep coming out. Look at that. That's a nice collection of moths that we raised, didn't we? Very beautiful. And one of the females that hatched last night, I think, is one of the biggest ones we had so far. Oh my god. Look at the size of this one. This is a huge one. Good news, everyone. Good news. Are you a fan of my online web series MothCycles? Then I have good news, because I'm going to introduce a brand new feature to it. It's called the wingspan board. Each of the squares on this cutting board represent 1 centimeter. And I figured that a lot of people who are watching my videos, it's hard for them to figure out the scale that the insects are that you're watching on YouTube, you know. It's hard to imagine the scale or the size of an insect based off a video footage. So now we have an accurate way to measure them. And in each episode of MothCycles that we raise a moth, from now on I will add a segment where we check out its wingspans. That's cool, so let's get started.
So here we have a male and a female. Each of the squares on this measuring board constitutes as 1 centimeter in size. Now, please note that this is not the official scientific way of measuring wingspan, but I am not under the illusion that this is a scientific measurement. I think it's just cool to show you the size of these moths in the resting position on a scale that people can actually easily see and interpret. Alright? If you really want a scientific measurement, it should be done from wingtip to wingtip on a prepared specimen, a dead one, in a scientific position with the wings in a 90-degree angle. That's not what happens in this case. But still, let's not make everything scientific. There's educational value in this as well. So the first thing we notice is the difference in color. Now, both the specimens are more or less brown, but there is a difference in color. Female is more like, what do we describe this color brown? It's more like chestnut brown, I suppose, more sandy, lighter brown. And the male is more like this olive green tinge. So there is like a very subtle, like the females, kind of lighter in color. Males are kind of darker green tinge. Second of all, there is the shape. As you can see, the female, she has very rounded curves, kind of rounded wingtips almost. While the male, with a very fancy term, is what we call, it has falcate wings. Falcate essentially means angled or curved. Oops, zoomed up too much there. You just saw my light ring. Yeah, that's my trick to getting good lighting on YouTube. The male has good falcate wings with a very sharp angle. See that? Here is kind of like this curve, this sharp angle, and it's what you see in many saturnids. Although it's not a reliable trait, the males often tend to have more angular, falcate, aerodynamic wings, while females have more rounded ones with usually more higher wing surface area. Obviously there's a difference in the antennae. For the male, he's probably gonna freak out if I touch them. There's these big feathered antennae, and the female, wonder if she wants to show them. See, the female's antennae are very thin. See that? That's a very big difference. Difference in antennae is very easy to see. It's hard to show the female's antennae at all because they are so small. See that? Very tiny. But the male is just these big, feathered, masculine, chad antennae. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. This is really one of a really cool species, to be honest. If you haven't raised them, please do. They're really easy, straightforward, and the colors are beautiful. Just look at the eye spot here. They have this kind of like, I don't know, it's colorful. The red and yellow eye spots are very charismatic in my opinion. Whoop. Very cool. Now I'm not sure why I'm showing you all of this, to be honest. It has nothing to do with the subject matter at hand, which is moths. But I guess that I want people to know that a lot more work goes into these episodes than they think. And I guess I like getting recognition for that fact once in a while, you know. People always tell me, oh, you're a YouTuber. YouTube is such an easy job, you know. It's such easy work. Everybody can make an entertaining video. That's not true. Like, this is just for one episode. I have hundreds of pages of script for future episodes, including the episode that you are watching right now. If you're watching this episode right now, Antheraea pernyi, this Chinese oak silkmoth, then this is what the script looks like for an episode like this.
And it's a lot of writing, it's a lot of editing, it's a lot of planning. It's also breeding the insects themselves. And on the videos that you're watching right now, the production time is often between 3 to 12 months, sometimes longer. There's actually videos on my channel that I've worked on for over 2 years. So I don't know, man. I guess sometimes I'm just getting sick of the people who say that it's easy. Being a YouTuber is easy. It's not easy to entertain over 20,000 people that are watching your show. You actually have to put out some quality, you know. And everybody wants to be a YouTuber nowadays. It's very fun work, but it can also be very unrewarding sometimes, especially when platforms like YouTube don't really care about the people who make videos. I think YouTube isn't very transparent with their own YouTubers. The people who make their own website great, you know, are often neglected and unrewarded. So yeah, I'm very determined to proceed because I love talking about moths. I love making breeding videos. You know, it's just a very good way of self-expression for me, but yeah. Just hope that many of you realize that this kind of stuff is not easy to do. At least the content I make is not easy. Anyway, let's move on. Now, as I've said, I really originally didn't want these larvae to play a significant part in this episode of MothCycles, because this is not a brood that we raise together. It's something I've been raising behind the scenes. But I kind of changed my mind a little bit. I'm not gonna elaborately show you how I'm rearing them again, but when they turn into moths, I'm gonna show ya. It's just a nice bonus amount of moths to include in my video, since I'm talking about this species anyways. Yeah. Anyway, that was it for tonight. I have a lot to do, like finish other episodes of MothCycles, which is a lot of work. Here, do you want to see something cool? It's unrelated, by the way. But do you see this? This is a script. This is a script for a MothCycles episode. It's about the puss moths, Antheraea pernyi, and this is like the voiceover that I do for this web series. But also like the script of how the episode is going to be. See that? I've written all of this myself, and this is just for one episode of MothCycles. Clearly, this web series takes a lot of time and preparation. I write all of them out from the beginning to an end, including a script and what's going to happen. It's funny, isn't it? Just so you know that the series you're watching right now, okay, this is not total improvisation. I do plan a lot of things. It's more work than you think. Look, people, here on my hand I have one fully grown caterpillar, one cocoon and one moth. It's actually the whole life cycle in the palm of my hand. This is something that I like to do sometimes. When I happen to have all life stages, I like to put them together and just like, well, now you can actually compare them, you see. You actually have caterpillar, cocoon, and the moth. The whole life cycle of Antheraea pernyi. And this is really a species I love, to be honest. Their size, but also just how cool and bright green and big the caterpillars are. Yeah, it's quite a great species, and you can even hybridize them with other Antheraea species if you're into that. Cool, eh? Yeah, this was the sexy Moth King showing you a life cycle, I suppose.
Wow! Giant freaking moths! That's what they turn into. And I raised them myself, all the way from caterpillar to moth. Look at how incredibly big they are. Oh my god. I like big moths and I cannot lie. I don't know the rest of the song.
But if you haven't raised this species yet, you better get started as soon as you can. Because this is a lovely, lovely, lovely species. And look at the underside, it's also really beautiful. It has these complex patterns. And I just want to spread the love for this species worldwide. Antheraea pernyi is the name, remember it. Wow. Look at that gorgeous, huge creature. So beautiful. Wow. I love these. Now the females of this species have more or less gigantic abdomens. Some of them almost have the size of a small chicken egg. And that's because this species lays a ridiculous amount of eggs. They can lay, a big female can lay hundreds of eggs. Antheraea probably have one of the hugest abdomens of most of the moths that I've raised. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look at how big.
What a huge and fat abdomen. Can you see her heartbeat? You can even see her breathing tubes pulsing back and forth in her abdomen. It looks very weird. These basically are her insides, and you can see them.
If this female finds a partner, then I'm gonna be drowning in eggs, because I bet this female is so big and fat. I bet she has like 200 eggs, maybe more. Wow. You incredible beauty.
Yep, these are more pairings. A male and a female making love. So that means many babies coming.
Here on top we have a female. She has a weird wing. As you can see, one of her forewings does not have a perfect shape. But that's the thing with animals. Animals have imperfections. They're not factory products. They're not an iPhone. But when we look at our other moths, we see something which was to be expected, and that is that they are dead. This one right here is pretty much dead. This one right here is pretty much dead. All of these moths are pretty much dead. So that's almost the end of our breeding project. Well, not exactly, because I'm raising more of them behind the scenes, but for this video, this is almost the end of the breeding project. But there's good news. If your moths have paired, they will leave behind hundreds of eggs.
And more of them are coming out. See that? Way. Just quickly showing you guys, we already bred them, but I promised. Gonna show you all the moths that emerged this year. See? Second brood did quite well. And I'm expecting even more of them soon. This is just the first cocoons that hatched. Pretty impressive species, don't you think? Very large.
Pretty much all of us understand that moths can lay a lot of eggs.
And here are some of the eggs of our Antheraea pernyi. But this is on another level. Like, oh my god. This is just the beginning. I'm not joking when I say that one female of this species can lay hundreds and hundreds of eggs. If you want to raise a lot of huge moths, then this is your species. This is the species you need, because they reproduce in huge numbers despite their massive size. Look at those eggs. They're quite big too. Oh my god. I'm gonna be in trouble.
Oh hey, you're here. Oops, I didn't notice the camera. Guys, if you've done your job well and you raised your moths, then enjoy it while it lasts, because these animals, they live for a very short time. The lifespan of these insects is just about 2 weeks time. And well, as you can see, many of them have already passed away. This one is dead. This one is dead. So more or less all of them seem to be dead, apart from one. Let's see. What am I going to do with so many eggs? Well, I'm gonna keep some of them for my own breeding, and I'm going to sell some of them to customers. Now some people are going to ask, wow, Bart Coppens, do you sell eggs to customers? The answer is yes, but not directly to YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to sell animals through YouTube. So that's not what YouTube is for. Sometimes, in rare cases, I do sell them to other people. But you know what? My YouTube channel is demonetized by YouTube. And my videos, they take an insane amount of time to make. So what I do is I usually give the eggs away to people who help crowdfund me on Patreon. Patreon is a crowdfunding platform that I use for my channel. And it makes sense, because these people, they donate to my channel, which is important for me. This content is very time consuming to make and expensive. And these people are my lifeblood, essentially. And that's why I sometimes, when I have leftover eggs, I send them to patrons. If you are interested, join my Patreon crowdfunding platform. And there's a chance I can send you eggs, but it depends on several things. First of all, you have to live in a place where it's legal to send you eggs. Okay? In some countries it's not legal to send exotic insects without a permit. And I am not breaking the law. And I also don't want my fans to get in legal trouble. To get in trouble with the law because of me. So you do have to be in a place where this is legal. Second of all, you probably have to message me first about it on Patreon. Because I don't know what people want. So you will have to go out of your way and inbox message me. Then again, if you do join my Patreon, please know it's a crowdfunding platform. And the point of Patreon is to support a creator that makes content or videos that you love. And not necessarily a transaction to buy items. So it's a potential reward. A potential one. Anyway, we collected a lot of eggs. Wow, people, here are the eggs. And we have so many of them. Now the good news is the breeding project is almost over.
we have this one moth left. But one thing I showed you before is the fact that behind the scenes I was raising more caterpillars, and here are their cocoons. See that? So these are some of the new cocoons that the other caterpillars have been spinning. So soon I will have another generation of giant moths coming up. Only on the channel of Bart Coppens. There you go. That's good news. Now I am not going to show you everything over again. But when these cocoons hatch, I guess I will briefly show you the moths. Just because it's fun. I mean, the more moths in an episode, the better, right? That's my philosophy. The more moths, the better. Always seek out more moths. Disregard females, acquire insects. Anyway. So this is an incredible amount of eggs, wow. Just look at this, bro. That is crazy. Now, incubating the eggs of this species is very easy. All you have to do is keep one container on room temperature and wait about 2 weeks. Now, any temperature that's probably between like 70 degrees Celsius, 17 degrees Celsius, and like 30 degrees Celsius is acceptable to them. But room temperature refers to around 21 degrees Celsius. No special care is needed, just keep them in a plastic container for 2 weeks. No, you don't need to do anything weird when it comes to moisture or humidity or ventilation. No, these are really easy. Just forget about them.
It's the only sound you hear here every day. Makes you sick. How many times do people have to mow the grass every day? Come on, man. Get a freaking life. Anyway, looks like we have a small birth explosion here. Oh my freaking god, that's so many babies. In about 2 weeks time the eggs have hatched. Wow. Let's give them some oak leaf, that's what they like. Damn. So many freaking babies.
Life cycle completed. This is the end of this part of the video. Rest in peace. These moths live for a very short time, but their babies live on. Life cycle complete. Yeah, so the babies have been born. And I suppose that is the end of this breeding project. It's the end. We went from egg to cocoon to moth, and then we are back to eggs and caterpillars. We completed the whole life cycle. That's pretty great. But the video is not over yet, because in my video I always have an educational part. A small presentation, because the point of breeding insects is to learn about them. So let me tell you about this amazing species right now. The Chinese oak silkmoth, or Antheraea pernyi, is a fascinating species I have received many requests for. So I listened to your suggestions and here it is. This year I am finally doing a lot of the popular species that people have been requesting. This species has a long history and is still popular today among silkmoth breeders and enthusiasts. It is also one of the commercial species of silk moths that produce silk that is used, well, commercially. I've shown you their life cycle in captivity right now, but I also find it important to educate people that watch my channel about the species that we breed. After all, for me the point of breeding an insect is to learn about them in the first place. The native range of Antheraea pernyi, or the Chinese oak silk moth, is something interesting to look at. Why? Because in most of its range it was introduced by humans. It's thought to originate from China, but it's also found in Taiwan, was introduced by humans to Japan, then was introduced by humans in Korea, the Amur region in Russia, and yes, even parts of Europe. In this case Spain and the island of Mallorca. As you can see, it lives in the temperate parts of the world, and the species is able to hibernate and survive cold winters. Its origin is thought to be perhaps China or India. It's difficult to figure out, though. Is Antheraea pernyi even a real species? That may sound like a silly and out of the blue question, but scientists are actually not sure. Surprising, huh? You see, humans have played a major role in the modern geographical distribution, the genetics, and arguably the very existence of Antheraea pernyi. There is some evidence to suggest that Antheraea pernyi is a feral animal of sericultural origin. Sericultural means pertaining to the silk cultivation industry. The wild progenitor appears to be Antheraea roili from tropical and subtropical central and southern China, from which it evolved by chromosome rearrangement. Curiously, Antheraea pernyi and Antheraea roili appear to be able to make fertile hybrids that were fertile through numerous generations. Okay, let's discuss all of this in greater detail, because this is going to blow your mind. One of the most prominent pieces of information that I could find on the internet was a scientific paper titled Diverse Evidence that Antheraea pernyi, so Turnidae, is entirely of sericultural origin, published in 2012 by Dr. Richard Peigler in Tropical Lepidoptera Research. The abstract tells me that there is a preponderance of evidence that the Tussah silkmoth Antheraea pernyi was derived thousands of years ago from the wild Antheraea roili. Historical, sericultural, morphological, cytogenic and taxonomic data are cited in support of this hypothesis. This explains why Antheraea pernyi is very easy to mass rear, produces copious quantities of silk in its cocoons, and the oak Tussah hybrid crosses between pernyi and roili reared in captivity in India were fully fertile through numerous generations. The case is made that it is critical to conserve populations and habitats of the wild progenitor as a genetic resource for this economically important silk moth. Time for some science, let's get started. So, there's only 3 species of Antheraea that are in a closely related species group. Antheraea roili, Antheraea pernyi and Antheraea kniveti. These 3 species are closely related, and the moths and their caterpillars have a distinct appearance from all the other Antheraea species. I will try to keep it short because there is a lot of information in the paper that I've read, and if you want to learn it all, I recommend downloading the original paper. But to summarize what I saw, there are 3 closely related species named Antheraea pernyi, Antheraea roili, and a third one named Antheraea kniveti. After investigating them, here's the conclusion. Between the morphology of Antheraea kniveti and Antheraea pernyi, there were consistent differences. For example, their genitals were shaped differently. The shape of the forewing apices differs between these 2 species, as well as more black in the eye spots of the hindwings of Antheraea kniveti. Interesting note, however, is that between Antheraea roili and Antheraea pernyi, no consistent differences were found. As to quote the scientific paper itself directly, both Antheraea roili and Antheraea pernyi display phenotypic variation of the adult's wing color and pattern. There are actually no known consistent traits to separate the 2, because their variation broadly overlaps. And also, to summarize this subsection, there are no taxonomic differences between Antheraea pernyi and Antheraea roili, but Antheraea kniveti appears to be a valid species that was long confused with Antheraea roili. The genetic evidence. Let's talk about genetics. How many people on my channel understand genetics? I don't know. But it's interesting to talk about it for those who appreciate it, because this is really scientific evidence that supports the claim that that Antheraea pernyi has perhaps evolved from Antheraea roili through captive breeding. So here's the genetic evidence. Interestingly, Antheraea roili has 31 chromosomes, while Antheraea pernyi has 49. By the way, the modal ancestral number of chromosomes for most saturnids is 31. The higher number of chromosomes in Antheraea pernyi can be explained, however, by chromosome fragmentation. When the species are both crossbred, 18 of the chromosome pairings of Antheraea pernyi were trivalents. So that means that the difference in number of chromosomes between the two species, which is 18, can be explained by the fact that 18 of the 31 pairs of chromosomes in Antheraea roili have been fragmented into new pairs. This suggests that Antheraea pernyi may in fact have evolved from Antheraea roili by chromosome rearrangement. Correct me if I am wrong, since my knowledge of genetics is limited, but this is the way I see it as supported by this paper. Historical evidence also suggests that Antheraea pernyi is a cultivated form of Antheraea roili. Antheraea pernyi has been introduced to several places around the world since the mid-1800s, but the populations never persist and eventually go extinct. This supports the evidence that wild populations of Antheraea pernyi fail to establish themselves in the wild without the assistance of humans beyond their native range. This indicates that the species is a cultivated strain of silkmoths and not a species that can even survive on its own without humans continuously breeding them. Development and maintenance of an artificial strain having cocoons with abundant silk that is now called Antheraea pernyi would have been easier to carry out in areas outside of the natural range of Antheraea roili, since gene flow from wild populations would interfere with the artificial selection process. All of this evidence would suggest that yes, indeed, Antheraea pernyi is most likely just a cultivated form of Antheraea roili. Morphologically and genetically, there are little differences. Although Antheraea pernyi has a number of adaptations when it comes to their life history that facilitates captive breeding. Antheraea pernyi has an unusual chromosome number, but these are still sufficiently homologous with those of Antheraea roili when the two are crossbred. Another interesting fact is that the original description of this species described the moth as Antheraea roili and not roili. So actually the correct name for them is Antheraea roili. However, the majority of literature and papers published about them describe them as Antheraea roili, since most of the authors do not read the original descriptions before they publish about certain species. Therefore, in literature, the incorrect spelling of roili yields more results than the actual correct spelling, which is roili. Anyways, this is interesting information to take in. Think about it. Antheraea pernyi was created by humans from another species named Antheraea roili, and if it deserves its own species status, well, that can be argued. I think the moths do show differences from their wild ancestor, but the definition of a species gets a little bit in the gray area here. What do you think? All I know is that they are different from the ancestor, but are they different enough to be called their own species? Let your thoughts know in the comments. For me, at least, it's pretty clear that this is a moth of sericultural origin and humans had a hand in creating this strain or species. Like most other species of moths, of course, these are herbivores, and the list of potential food plants is pretty huge. But one of their favorite food plants by far is oak tree. and many kinds of oak tree at that. A large amount of species from the genus Quercus are accepted. However, they also accept prunus or cherry, betula or birch tree, fagus or birch, castanea or chestnut, eucalyptus, salix or willow, Silamomum camphora, and other related plants. Their preference for oak tree in particular gave them the common name Chinese oak silkmoth. Did you know there is a rare form of Antheraea pernyi that is brown? It's also known as Antheraea harti or Antheraea pernyi harti. It used to be in the breeding hobby, but sadly it has disappeared. We can only hope and pray that this form will come back in the future because it's beautiful. Antheraea pernyi harti was a brown version of Antheraea pernyi with beautiful yellow eye spots and a golden line around the wing edge. Hopefully there are still people breeding it in a remote location in China or India. Who knows? If anybody has eggs of this rare color form, then please let me know. I would love to breed them and film them for my YouTube channel. This moth is indeed a commercial species of silk moth that is farmed on an industrial level and provides many people with an income and livelihood. The silk gets processed into a wide variety of products. So yes, this moth is just not an interesting species to study for entomologists. It's a moth species that supports people in their day-to-day life and was raised by people for hundreds of years. In China, India and other places, the moths have been raised to cocoons, and the cocoons have been used for silk products such as clothing for a very long time, and there is a long and rich cultural history behind it. Before this video is completely over, there's still one important announcement I have to end my videos with. This YouTube channel is demonetized. This YouTube channel is demonetized, and YouTube refuses to tell me why. What does that mean? You see, normally YouTubers, when they get a lot of views and when they get a lot of subscribers, are actually paid by YouTube through ad revenue. That means when people click on the videos of a YouTuber, he gets a lot of exposure, he gets a lot of views, then he will receive money for his effort in return. My channel, however, is demonetized. I don't receive money from YouTube. I don't get a single cent, a single dollar out of all the videos that I make. And that sucks because it's hard work. I put my heart, my soul and passion into these videos. Yet I get nothing for it in return. And YouTube is not even transparent about what guideline I violated in order to get demonetized. But it is permanent. So what does that mean? It means if you like my YouTube channel, if you like this video, if you like the show, please consider donating to me. Consider joining our crowdfunding platform Patreon, where you can buy a subscription. It's also possible to support us through PayPal, Ko-Fi and any other means. The reason I beg on the internet, because that's what I'm doing, I'm begging. I don't like it, but I don't have any other alternative as a YouTuber. These videos take an insanely long time to make. A lot of resources, a lot of expenses. Filming the life cycle of such large moths is months of work and months of filming. Not to mention all the editing and the script that I have to write. See? This was the script for this episode. It is more work than most people can possibly imagine. I would go as far as to say it is a job. YouTube is my part-time job. And I make an income doing this. And I am dependent on the tips and donations of my viewers. So for as little as $1 a month, you can support the channel and my work. I work with butterflies and moths and I promote their conservation. I also research them in the wild and in captivity. So if you are supporting me, you are also supporting an independent entomologist that helps the conservation and protection of butterflies and moths. And in return, I give you entertaining videos that you enjoy. I say that is a win-win situation. Of course, this is only for the people who are willing and able to
This channel is a free service, everybody can watch it for free. I understand some people cannot afford it, are not able to, or are not willing to. That does not make you less of a viewer. But I want people who watch this channel to keep in mind, my content, what I do, is 100% dependent on the tips and donations that people give me. And without them, this video would not be here today. The more budget I have for my show, the more awesome my videos are going to be. So supporting my channel also means I can show you cooler species, cooler locations, and make even more awesome videos. If you are into butterflies and moths, if you enjoy my videos, I highly recommend supporting me. I really do, because that's what keeps me alive. Without any support from my community, I would not be able to continue this series. But thanks to you it is, and therefore today I'm going to show you the credits of all my loyal patrons who have donated to this channel, just to display their names and show you these are the names of the people who have my back, and it's thanks to them that my channel keeps making more and more content. Let's play the credits.